All right, welcome in to the Kodiak Broncos Podcast. I'm the Kodiak, and today I'm here to talk about how the Broncos went from being absolutely trash and absolutely abysmal to being one of the NFL's premier organizations once again. So I just want to say a couple things. So before I begin and before I talk about this in my video, I just have some shout outs to give. So thank you all for almost 400 subscribers. I'm at 397 by the time I'm recording this video. Hopefully I'll hit 400 either today or tomorrow or sometime within the next week. And shout out to a lot of these people that I see frequently commenting on my videos. Now, if you comment on my videos, I appreciate you just as much as I do all these other fine people. But these are the people that I see a lot, like D-Rock. You're the absolute GOAT of Broncos media. You're always commenting on everything that me or my friends have to say. Xanath, well done as well. T-Fishes, Hydramo, the Ronald Anderson, the Dragonheart 325, Anthony Moreno, and Soviet Spy. All of you, absolutely fantastic interacting with you all, and you guys all make my day whenever you leave a comment. So really happy that you all are a part of this community, and obviously my very good friends like David Talks Broncos and Marquee Sports, who I am going on Mic'd Up Live with on Thursday night. So be sure to check that out, and a lot of other dudes in the Discord that we have. Really tight community of Broncos creators there, like Andy, like SkillBuffs22, and a bunch of other guys, Jeremy as well. There's a bunch of you in that Discord that I have to give a shout out to. So I just want to give a huge mile high salute to all of you. Now to our feature presentation. So 2022 offseason, how the Broncos became a legitimate dumpster fire. So after the 2021 year, a lot of people were saying, dang, this team is good, but they don't really have a quarterback. And to be completely honest, I kind of share that sentiment as well, because we saw so much glimpses of brilliance from that 2021 team, but ultimately it just seems like they didn't have that dog in them. They were still playing some pretty solid defense, and they still had a pretty nice run game with Melvin Gordon before he was washed, and then Javonte Williams when he was a rookie. It provided a lot of really nice things, but our passing game was just completely non-existent at times. And also, that team just didn't have that dog in him. Every time we thought that, wow, if the Broncos lose this game, it'll be humiliating. They did end up losing the game. And part of it was because Fangio's just not cut out to be a head coach. Now, I know that it's kind of weird to be questioning Fangio and how he prepares his players after what he did to Mahomes in the Super Bowl about a month ago. But, I mean, the proof is in the pudding. We didn't have a lot of fire in that 2021 team. It felt like a lot of dudes were just there to collect a check. A lot of dudes were there to just make business decisions. But we still had a pretty solid core of Broncos to build off of. Now, what I will say is that with everybody thinking that we were just a QB away, I think everybody kind of overestimated our talent that offseason. I think we should have retooled rather than go all in. It's easy to say now, but, a lot of people were saying, wow, we have such a great wide receiver core. That really never developed. That never really materialized for anybody beyond the past few years besides Courtland Sutton. And listen, we traded for Russell Wilson and hired Nathaniel Hackett this offseason. So I will say, trading for Russell Wilson 100% made sense. Granted, with what we gave up, I think that you have to be sure that you can, recuperate and keep the team around him good if you're going to give up that kind of haul. But so I got the vision. And I can live with even missing on the contract extension, which I know is a big reason why a lot of people are really mad about that trade. But hiring Nathaniel Hackett never made sense to me. And I don't think George Payton gets a lot of leeway there, considering hiring Nathaniel Hackett and going after Aaron Rodgers, if they managed to land him, may have gone even worse for the Broncos than, had they traded for Russell Wilson. So I don't give Payton a lot of leeway there. A lot of people defend Payton by saying, well, he heard things that, potentially Aaron Rodgers would follow Nathaniel Hackett to Denver. So I'm like, okay, you hired a head coach with the idea of luring a notoriously insecure, drama-ridden 37-year-old quarterback to the team. Like, that just didn't make sense to me, and I don't give Payton a pass there at all. But we had very little talent, and we were very resource strapped as a result of that. And we will be for a long time. We still will be. It hurts not having those first round picks. It hurts not having those seconds as well. Because the hidden cost behind that is you have to trade a first and a second for Sean Payton as well. So the only good thing to come out of that offseason was the team being sold to the Penner and Walton group, because for years this team had been run by Joe Ellis with absolutely zero accountability within the building and zero accountability structure. So it's good that we finally got some owners. Not only did we get some owners, we got the richest owners in professional sports as well, at least in American sports. So that was pretty neat. But overall, 2022 offseason, it just set this team back so many years. What was even worse was the on-field product of the 2022 season, just absolute disaster and total mess, no other way around it. So we became the laughingstock of the NFL. And, when a team gets on primetime as frequently as we did, especially early on in the year, like we got flexed out a couple times that year, I think. And one of them was the Super Bowl champion Chiefs, who, I mean, if they're getting flexed out of the game, you have to wonder how bad is the opposition. But um, we had some disasters. Obviously, we had Monday Night Football Week 1 where, we had that 64-yard field goal debacle. We had that disastrous Thursday Night Football game against the Colts that people still talk to this day when they talk about me more the NFL games, even though there's been plenty of others since then. But that was one of the ones that really started this whole era of Thursday Night Football being pretty much unwatchable. We also had a game on Monday Night Football against the Chargers that was just another disaster. So it was really, really rough seeing the defense play so hard that year, and then seeing nothing materialize of it other than the offense just being able to piss away every chance that they were given. And it gets even worse when you don't have your first round pick and one of the most hated teams in your franchise historically, like one of the teams we hate the most, probably the team we hate the most outside of our current division rivals, is the Seattle Seahawks, because they were obviously a former division rival, but we had the Super Bowl with them, and it was only amplified by the Russ trade. So when they own your first round pick, it's not good. It's not good, and obviously their fan base was really rampant, and we got made fun of quite a bit for that year. But so the Hackett and Russ combo, it was insanely dysfunctional. There were just too many cooks in the kitchen when it came to that combo. There were a lot of really, really weird things that went on the offensive side of the ball. Lots of really weird things that happened within the building, like Russ bringing in his QB coach and the Broncos being like, all right, whatever he wants. Russ getting his own office. And, it's not uncommon for quarterbacks to have those things. Like Brady had his personal trainer in the building, in the Patriots building. Kenny Pickett had an office. And those things get amplified when you're losing. But toxic veterans also just poison the team. Nick Benito talked about this on the Ryan Clark podcast, where he talked about how, dudes in the locker room midway through the year were just like, Cancun on 3 in the middle of that year. And Nick Benito was like, what is this? Like, you guys are trying to, just get out of here and collect a check. But either way, bad coaching, bad positional coaching, locker room at odds with each other. Like, I've never seen a locker room be so toxic towards one another to the point where they were fighting on the sidelines multiple times a year. And then you have the head coach being like, no, I didn't see it at all. No accountability structure and a million injuries that year. 5-12 finish. That's what it results in. 5-12 finish when you don't have your first round pick. That's basically how the Broncos became a total mess. But the bright side after this year was that there was nowhere to go but up. All right, so the 2023 offseason. So Sean Payton came in and basically overhauled everything about the team. He basically said, Russ, no more personal trainer, no more office, no more QB coach. That's not going to be happening here. It's unfamiliar to me. Not going to be going on. And then there were reports of, just random people throughout the Broncos cafeteria, like random family members. And Sean Payton was like, what is this? Like, we're not doing this anymore. We're not going to have, whoever running throughout the facility. We're not going to have all these dudes that should not be here be inside the building, because he thought that the way that things were going in the Denver Broncos building were absolutely ridiculous. He talked about it in the Nathaniel Hackett interview. He talked about not only, what the Hackett regime had allowed in the building, but what the president and George Payton had allowed the building to turn into. And Sean Payton basically installed an entirely new strength and conditioning and health regime. And he also gave us a very deep assistant coaching staff. Like, we had 5 coaches this past offseason poached to new teams, and we gave promotions to 3 coaches that performed very, very well for us last year. And this offseason made our offensive line go from horrific, most sacks allowed in the league, to a bona fide strength. It's been a top 5 pass blocking line in the NFL over the past 2 years. Still have my questions about the run blocking, but bona fide top 5 offensive line. And they added Marvin Mims and Riley Moss. Now, Marvin Mims' division didn't come until this past season, same with Riley Moss, but when you can get those young core guys, when you have limited draft capital, that is the fruits of a rebuild. And we also came in still very committed to Russ, and we wanted to give him minimal excuses if things didn't work out. My expectation, I thought this team was going to perform pretty strong. I thought this team was going to be pretty good. I was like, all right, Nathaniel Hackett had us going absolutely nowhere. Excuse me, but I thought Nathaniel Hackett had us going nowhere. I expected 2023, I expected it to be a good year. I was thinking playoffs, didn't necessarily expect it, but I was like, all right, I think this team can definitely make some noise. And then during the year, when your team goes 1-5, and one of which is a 70-point loss to the Miami Dolphins. That's just not good. That's just not good at all. And our defense was historically bad throughout the year, or at least through the first 6 games. And I really have my questions. I have my questions about Sean Payton because not only did we let Miami dunk on us, we let Sam Howell's Commanders dunk on us. We couldn't get off the field versus Jimmy Garoppolo's Raiders in week 1. We had a really, really bad first half of football against Justin Fields. But we really started to ramp it up 2 weeks later against Green Bay. And then we beat Kansas City. And so that's when I realized that this coaching staff, they had a really, really good knack and ability to put things in the past. And they had a really good knack for, giving some teams that we shouldn't have been competing with a challenge. And we beat Kansas City for the first time since 2015. So bravo to everybody in Broncos country who was a part of that, because that is not something that we should take lightly at all. And as the season went on, I thought the coaching staff was doing a lot with very little. I thought that, Sean Payton turning Russ into like a conservative, Alex Smith type version, Teddy Bridgewater type version. Honestly, that was the way we're winning games, because it was, all right, we're going to protect the football. We're going to have some awesome 2-minute drills, and we're going to have our defense take the football away, even if they do give up some plays here and there. So honestly, you may not like it. That's not a prolonged formula for success, as we saw by the fact that we couldn't beat the Patriots and make the playoffs. But, everything to do with that season, I'm willing to give the coaching staff a pass, because we really did not have a lot of talent on the team, and Russ was cooked. Like, if there was any season that told us that Russ was cooked as a Bronco, it was not 2022, because you can blame Nathaniel Hackett, but 2023, when we had all the actual infrastructure in place, and we still could not perform that well. And this season was hampered by Russ being bad when it mattered most, unfortunately. So the 2024 offseason, we got our franchise quarterback. So when it was like February, March, around this time last year, I was like, all right, we have no talent on this roster. I was like, we have Miners and we have Surtain as bona fide above average NFL players, but we didn't have a lot of really, really good pieces on our team, or at least I thought. And I was like, all right, when you trade for a quarterback like Russell Wilson, you're carrying so much dead cap. That's kind of the hidden cost behind that as well. But we moved off of a lot of toxic veterans. We moved off of Judy, moved off of Russ. Simmons is not a toxic guy, but he was a core guy who we wanted to theoretically let go to a contender and, give him a shot to play elsewhere. But we had a measured approach in free agency, but we still had some pretty nice pickups, like Brandon Jones. That was a great pickup. And we did very, very well in last year's draft, but obviously the golden nugget and why we were able to turn our franchise around and get off the QB carousel was because we spent our 12th overall pick on Bo Nix. And there was a lot of discourse when it came to the quarterbacks in last year's draft. Like, a lot of people were saying, well, Nix isn't really a first-round talent. They were saying that, maybe a guy like J.J. McCarthy would be better. Or, you kind of have to overdraft a quarterback this year because, to be completely honest, we were desperate. And I'm not going to disagree with the fact that we were desperate, but we still got the guy who was able to elevate our team to new heights. And listen, we had no expectations coming into the year. Like, we were a 5.5 win total team for a reason. And, I think Vegas is definitely going to be more measured when it comes to their, win totals. Because 90% of the bets were on the over and they never adjusted the line. So, yeah. Now, a lot of people also had really, really low expectations because a lot of people were just like, this team sucks. We have no talent. A rookie quarterback who everyone hated as a prospect, and a quarterback or a head coach who everybody tried to say was a Drew Brees merchant, right? Even though it's been proven the past 2 years that is very, very far from the case. So 2024 in season, we made the playoffs, and we did absolutely fantastic this year relative to expectations. And listen, the offense still had some really ugly showings, especially early on, but the defense did a lot of the heavy lifting. This offense had some really, really bad performances, especially, I want to say week 1, week 2, week 4, all stick out to me as really ugly. But once we were able to develop, once we were able to be more cohesive, it started to click. It started to click together, and one of the best things about last year is that our vision finally came through for a lot of supporting players. Like Zach Allen turned into one of the game's best interior defensive linemen overnight. He played 950 snaps, which I don't know how you were able to do that when you're literally throwing yourself at offensive linemen who are 300 pounds on every play. Nick Bonito was another dude who, I thought he kind of capped out as like a nice rotational piece, but I was like, all right, this edge room has a lot of Robins, but not a Batman. And Bonito turned into that Batman. So Marvin Mims also became, he had a lot of talent as a kick returner, and we were able to see that. But he was very disappointing as a second-round wide receiver that you were expecting to contribute to your offense. And guess what? We found a role for him, and he has done very, very well within said role. Riley Moss as well. We had questions about cornerback 2 entering last year, and guess what? Riley Moss put all those to ease. He was playing very, very well before his injury. And listen, Bo Nix, the guy I really want to hamper on here. Nix was lethal from mid-October onward, even with a fractured spine and turf toe. And I did think he regressed a little bit at the end of the year, but I'm willing to give him a pass because, we had no run game. We had no intermediate passing game because we quite simply didn't have the talent to win over the middle of the field, especially with our trash tight end room. But with Bo Nix, he still played some great football. He still delivered great in some of the big games that we had down the stretch. So shout out to you, Bo Nix, because it's clear that this guy is a competitor. He's tough as nails, and I'm really, really happy with what we saw from him. So 2 unsung heroes of last year, the assistant coaching staff and the athletic training team. So the assistant coaching staff, Zach Strief, Davis Webb, Jim Leonard, and Jamar Kane, you all did absolutely phenomenal last year. You had so many guys take unforeseen jumps of development, and it was a huge part. It's in large part due to the fact that we had a good assistant coaching staff in place, especially at most of our position groups as well. And the athletic training team. Hey, the Broncos have been one of the healthiest teams in the NFL the past 2 years after being historically unlucky from the Landau regime. So, yeah. And also, making the playoffs is not an accomplishment for teams like the Steelers. I know that teams like the Bills, obviously, they want to get further than they have been in years past. And listen, if we do cap out at like a wild card divisional round exit, we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. But for now, in the 2024 season, when we still had so many obvious holes on this team, we did so well relative to expectation. I'm really, really happy with the way that year transpired. So, the 2025 offseason. The nice thing about this particular offseason is that we can move on from our very obvious liabilities. Javonte Williams, you are now a Dallas Cowboy. Lil Jordan Humphrey, you are now going to be selling insurance within the next few months. And there are a lot of things that we can upgrade upon, like Cody Barton, Justin Sternat. I was not really happy with how they played down the stretch. So what do? We bring in Dre Greenlaw. PJ Locke, I put out a film review talking about how Talanoa Hufanga replaced the worst starter on the defensive side of the ball for us. So there are clear liabilities within this team. And when you have a quarterback, you don't have to invest high draft capital into the quarterback position, so you can look elsewhere. You can look to fill your needs around the quarterback. And listen, so dudes actually want to be here now. Long gone are the days where the Broncos have to overpay bad free agents to be here just because they want to, put Band-Aids on the roster. We're collecting guys from winning programs. And listen, you can say whatever you want about the 49ers not being able to get it done. And I know that Evan Ingram's not really from any winning program, but considering he was on the Giants and the Jaguars, but at least during the regular season, guys like Greenlaw and Hufanga know how to win. And if you're finding guys who hate the Chiefs, who hate the Raiders, the 49ers, that's pretty much the other best team that you can look towards. Now, the only thing left to do is get a little nastier and find more guys who will bleed orange and blue. We have a very tight locker room. Long gone are the days of, me seeing the defense in public at the restaurant I used to work at and them yelling at the TV during a Russ press conference. True story, by the way. But this team has its flaws, but now we can viably see the vision through with Sean Payton and George Payton. So next year, we have a realistic shot of going deep in the playoffs, and this is all due to the fact that we did so many things over the past 3 years, and this is basically our timeline of how we became a good NFL organization again. It wasn't an overnight process, but it happened very, very fast compared to how it has been for teams trying to rebuild, for how it's been for teams that have been trying to turn it around for so long. So yeah, that basically does it for me. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace. Mahai salute.